I would genuinely love to be able to tell you just what is going to happen next week regarding sort of Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland Protocol, and indeed Brexit. Next week is a big week. I'm not trying to oversell that to you. It really is. Because depending on what actions Liz Truss decides to take next week, if she unilaterally makes changes to Northern Ireland Protocol, this could kickstart a whole series of events, which could be, well, very, very bad to say the least. We could very, very well likely end up in a trade war with the EU. There will probably be retaliatory moves from the US as well. We are doing this at a time where pretty much all the Western countries are united in sort of moving against Russia and sort of condemning them, and there needs to be sort of key unity on this point. So Britain will ultimately damaging itself on the world stage at this point, especially with our other fellow European allies in this, other countries around the world who have decided to make a stand with Ukraine. This could just go really, really bad. And I would genuinely love to say that Liz Truss here is performing some sort of David Frost tribute act by going around and, brandishing her saber, going, "Oh, look, we're being tough against the EU," because obviously the Conservatives are in a tough spot at the moment. So, they need to sort of do something to rally the troops. I really hope that they're not trying to use this as a key bargaining point, but it just really seemed like they are at this moment in an attempt to, well, rally whatever Brexiteers and Brexit supporter, I suppose, you can around them at the moment. But it is very worrying. And we will find out next week what is exactly going to happen. But, of course, just as I can't really tell you what's going to happen, and many people here in the UK can't really describe to you what's going to happen. This is why we're going to have a look at what the Irish are saying about this, because obviously it's going to affect them as well. And to be honest, I think they're just as as mystified as I am. And when you look at this, what on earth are they talking about? But this goes a bit deeper, because the Conservatives very, very much last week have been really, really talking about the Good Friday Protocol, the Friday Protocol, the Good Friday, protocol, and how the Northern Ireland Protocol is essentially a threat to the peace in Northern Ireland. That currently is the big lie, because the DUP hate the Good Friday Agreement, absolutely hate it, have done since its very first inception. And what they're doing now and the potential solutions that are being put forward by the UK do not really fulfill what they want, because even with the government's new proposals to change the Northern Ireland Protocol, it does not get rid of that trade barrier being in the Irish Sea, which they absolutely want to get rid of. And if they can sort of trash the Good Friday Agreement on the way out as well, well, albeit more happy to them. So let's go turn over to the Irish Times to see what they've got to say about all this. But before we do that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So over we go to the Irish Times on this. So the title is "The Conservatives' Big Lie is that the Northern Ireland Protocol is a threat to peace." For a party that has become adept at riding the wave of populism, the British Conservative government is curiously uncomfortable with public demonstration. The Queen's speech this month confirmed its plan to bring in an anti-protest laws akin to those currently used in Russia. If successful, similar efforts were again thrown up by the House of Lords last year. The rights to peacefully protest will be considerably curtailed in England and Wales, along with the erosion of other rights throughout the replacement of the Human Rights Act, which was also again announced in the Queen's speech. Yeah, some public protesters and minority rights were quite clearly are gathering the attention of the British government. Indeed, when championed by anti-protocol loyalists in Northern Ireland, they can appear to have a greater influence on government strategy than, say, the first preferences of 7 out of 10 voters of that expressed the will of 63 out of the 90 members of the Legislative Assembly. And again, this is obviously pointing out the fact that most people who were elected to the Northern Ireland Assembly are very much in favour of the Northern Ireland Protocol. The fact that such tactics are deliberately and directly contradict the functioning of the 1998 Belfast Agreement should make them a complete anathema to the British government. Instead, it has come to rely upon them. And this is unfortunate fact that we are staring at, that the government is stuck on populism. It has got itself hooked on this drug and it can't seem to get itself off. And this is why we've said there is going to be a fight, a civil war within the Tory party for its future and its direction of which way it wants to go, because you've got the more sort of moderate Tories, like the One Nation, Conservatives, very moderate, still right wing, but are at least, sensible, shall we say, when it comes to some stuff. And of course, you've got the right-wing libertarians in the Conservative Party who basically just want to go free market fundamentalism everywhere, completely get all the government out of the market, get rid of all the regulations, get rid of all these regulators, or at least gut them enough so that they basically can't perform their duties and their jobs, and basically everything will be fine and dandy. That is the direction that they are wanting to go. And it is going to be very interesting when it happens, because I think Boris Johnson is currently, as we described before, he is the wallpaper that is currently over the crack in this difference of ideology that, when he is gone, will literally consume the Tory party. So anyway, the article continues. The Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and the Attorney General all claim that the protocol is fundamentally undermining the Belfast Agreement. In so doing, they are not prioritising peace over the protocol. They are doing quite the opposite. They are giving succor to those who want to destroy the agreement in principle, and they are rewarding and reinforcing that behaviour which undermines it in practice. It is not possible for the British government to condemn loyalist violence and the DUP's obstruction of Stand 1 and 2 institutions on one hand, while at the same time depending on such unlawful actions as trying to legally justification to its chosen strategy on the protocol. In a statement to the Parliament on May 17th, the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss claimed the government is a co-signatory and co-guarantor of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement and will take the necessary decisions to preserve peace and stability. The urgency of the situation, she said, compelled the government to introduce legislation to make changes to the protocol. This amounts to breaking one international agreement to appease those who are, of course, of breaking another international agreement under the auspices of trying to protect the integrity and objectives of both. Some anti-protocol unionists argue that the threat of loyalist violence is no different than the purported threat of Republican violence against the customs infrastructure and officers on a post-Brexit hard Irish land border. They claim that the Irish government played up the risk and it swung the EU and indeed Boris Johnson in a moment of very feeble-mindedness to draw the border down the Irish sea instead. So, as we've said before, just a few moments ago, they do not want any type of border between them and the rest of the UK. That is the DUP's primary objective. So even if they win now in weakening the protocol, they will just go further and they will push further for it. That is their very intention to do. They want to get rid of it fully and completely. So anyway, it continues. Such threats were identified, but they were not the only reason for avoiding a hard border. I conducted surveys and focus groups in the central border region throughout the Brexit withdrawal process, and it was not a potential return of violence that people feared most, but the threat to the peace. The two are not one and the same. Peace can be threatened not only by violence, but by eroding the conditions which foster it. Brexit risks doing so because it has fundamentally changes the means and norms of the cooperation across all three strands of the government. The protocol does not threaten the peace in the same way. Blaming the protocol for the damage to the 1998 agreement is like blaming the referee for an own goal. Nevertheless, the Northern Ireland has evidently been placed in a very difficult and problematic solution. It is outside of the EU, and therefore there are new north-south differences. That is also partially outside the UK's internal market, and there are new east-west divisions too. Minimizing such differences is an objective, and that should be shared by the EU as well as the UK, by both being prepared to make compromises to do so. And I want to point out the EU have come forward. They've already come forward and said, look, we know there are problems with the protocol. Here's some solutions to what we want to do. The UK isn't interested, just not interested. It hasn't even seemed to have engaged in these talks whatsoever, which is very, very worrying. So anyway, it continues. A danger for Northern Ireland is that the EU, wary of a seeming moved by bully boy tactics, refuse to show flexibility at all. But the difficulties with the protocol are real, and the EU will have to adjust expectations for its implementation in light of the new actual risk proposed to the single market. As such, the UK and the EU would do well to be advised and to identify the substantive evidence based for the flexibility needed. Direct and formal UK-EU joint engagements with Northern Ireland officials, businesses, and civic society should be prioritised. Bear in mind, the EU has done that. It has reached out and said, "Look, we want to talk about this. Don't go, saying we're going to make changes when you really shouldn't be, because your justification is, oh well, it's threatening the peace." And again, as it was been mentioned in this article, if doing that in itself is a threat to the peace, but again, you give cover to the people like the DUP who have wanted to get rid of the Good Friday Agreement since its inception, and they're seeing this as their opportunity to do that as well. It is very, very worrying. In the meantime, what about the genuine dangers to the Belfast Agreement? Minister for Foreign Affairs Simon Coveney is not the only one who has been targeted by recent acts of loyalist intimidation. The leader of the Ulster Unionist Party, the Independent Female Journalists, and Loyalist Women calling for a functioning assembly, human rights lawyers, female candidates canvassing in unionist areas, all have been targets. Such acts of aggression are not motivated by the protocol. They are motivated by a refusal to let Northern Ireland grow and prosper. Effects to try and silence others either by force or fear are sinister and anti-democratic, no matter what form they take or by whom. Equally dangerous is the amplification of those who have nothing to offer but force and fear. I think it goes right to the heart of the problem that we are seeing here, that's happening in Northern Ireland. We are seeming to, without really realizing it, backing the DUP up. And the problem with extremists, and this goes for any type of extremists, if they gain ground somewhere, they will keep on pushing until they get what they want. You want a perfect example of this? Just look at the Brexit deal. The Brexit deal initially, and even the Leave campaign, pretty much campaigned for a very, very soft Brexit. It was only we were going to leave the EU politically, but we would stay in the single market and customs union. What happened was that the radicals and the extremists took hold and basically kept on pushing and pushing and pushing. Even this very problem now is a result of them pushing and pushing and pushing for their even harder and the most trying to pursue the most purest form of Brexit possible. And if we let, say, the DUP get away here with this one, what's to say if Liz Truss does go ahead and puts this bill forward? There's no reason to suggest that the DUP are just going to go, oh yeah, we're going to go back into government. There's nothing to say that they will. their stated aim and goal, they even said it last Tuesday when Liz Truss stood up. You know, they went, look, so long as there is a border in the Irish Sea, we will not return to government. You know, so as we said just a couple of weeks ago, when obviously the first sort of results for Northern Ireland came out, the DUP are just prepared to start crisis after crisis after crisis until they get their way. So, as always, thank you very much for those who are again have watched. Please do remember to that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a motivation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching and helping to support the channel that way. And of course, we'll see you all next time.